Yeah, why this shit not going live?
See, it's on me. It's crocky shit with fucking technical difficulties
That's what
here.
happens when you leaving the sticks.
Nope, but it says
Crocky's
I'm
Ripper
live.
Niner fans this week.
But it just said I went live on my I just got the email that I'm live. I don't know what the hell. Hold on, let me refresh it.
This shit.
Man, I need a ring light. My face looking all dark and shit.
It is dark. I just barely got this thing on Amazon. $29.
All right, here we go. Three,
Order my shit
2,
right now.
1. Let's see if we live. What the?
Oh no.
So we are live, but it's not saying I'm live at all. So I
It's
don't
not
even know how I'm
saying-
gonna be able to end this show.
Let me see if it's live on.
Now it's live. I'm looking at the chat.
What's all the fire emojis?
It shows
All right,
live
we're
on,
live. We're live. We're live.
on
So
YouTube right
we'll
now.
we'll figure it out. Okay, there we go. Now it popped up. I can end broadcast. All right, here we go. We already got 70 people watching right now. We're live. As you can see, myself, Eric Crocker. I got my brother with me, the rapper Donald right here. We got Greg Panelli, him in the porn stash, and of course, you see we got Quincy Avery here from QB Takeover, talking all things quarterback today. And Greg, Quincy, appreciate both of y'all for coming on here. Quincy, definitely. I mean, we do this every week with Greg, but for you to come on here, man, this is an honor for sure. And the first thing I wanted to ask you, and I almost started to ask you before we actually went live, but your guy Jalen Hurts, we see the jersey behind you up there, and he was kind of going crazy the other day, like going crazy. And now, you kind of point to him as kind of development. A lot of 49er fans that are in here right now, if y'all don't know, he's had the opportunity to work with, I don't want to say he's had the opportunity. Trey Lance had the opportunity to work with Quincy Avery. And we'll talk a little bit about some of his, the progression of all that. But when you see a guy like Jalen Hurts and some of the things that he's had to go through, whether it was at Alabama and how people viewed him, I'm not going to lie, I thought he was going to be a running back. And then he goes to Oklahoma. You start to see some of the progression a little bit playing in that Lincoln Riley offense. But then there's always that, well, it's Lincoln Riley's offense. Like, that's an easy offense. And then gets to the NFL, and even then, getting disrespected a little bit, plays a full year, which, I thought he did well. And for whatever reason, everyone else has the opportunity to improve, get better, except for Jalen Hurts or, is it like a black quarterback thing?
Yeah, kind of if you think about it, yeah, definitely a black quarterback thing.
Yeah, okay. So to see him the other night, man, everybody's watching and he's just going crazy. Like, how good does that feel as somebody that's worked with this kid and has really seen what he's had to go through?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it feels amazing to see somebody you work with. All the difficulties they had to go through, like the transfer from Alabama. Like, I first started working with him after that national championship game where Tua goes in, right, and he doesn't really know what the situation is. Like, I knew what it was, but no one told him, like, you're probably not going to be the starter next year. Watch him go through that, sitting on the bench and going to Oklahoma, being successful. And then people still not knowing if he can play quarterback. And then I've just seen the amount of work he puts in, right? If you would have saw Jalen Hurts throw in high school, like a senior in high school, you'd be like, I don't know if this is going to work. Then you see him throwing at Alabama, you're like, it's a struggle. Then even when he got done to Oklahoma, you're like, he's okay. But now the way he just threw in that game on Monday night, you're like, oh, he can be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Like, I watch him. There was the anticipation. He plays confident. His feet are good. Like, everything that you would look for in a quarterback, like where he should be, I think he's in a great space in terms of, like, his level ability to be successful in the NFL.
Hell yeah. So, and Greg, anytime you have any questions, go ahead and jump in. But I did want to ask you because, I saw something. There was like a back and forth like a year ago or something on Twitter. I stayed out of it. But I saw you going back and forth with somebody, and they were like, he didn't even play quarterback, but he coaches quarterbacks or whatever. But I did want to ask you, because my brother Donald, he played high school quarterback, but he works with quarterbacks now as well. He played receiver in college. How has that transition been, or how has it helped you when, playing a different position, then going in and working or training, another position as well?
Nah, so I think that it helped me more than anything. Like, I always knew what you should be doing. My dad coached the NFL. Like, I was always around great coaches. I was really good in high school, but in college, there was just things I couldn't do. Like, my arm wasn't strong enough. There was throws I couldn't make. and I thought I was gonna go to the NFL at receiver, and then I quickly found out I wasn't. But I've seen the game like how it's supposed to be played. I know what you're supposed to be doing. I couldn't do it, but I think that sometimes when you're limited in terms of talent, you have to be that much better technically. And I think I was that, and I started to understand like this is what you really should be doing. And then I love the position. Like this is the only thing that I really ever cared about was the quarterback position. I was living in UCLA 4 a.m. to midnight every night, trying to learn about quarterbacks, just trying to be a better, either understand the position better, how could guys play better. So I basically got a graduate degree in understanding how to play quarterback. And that's what has allowed me to be successful more than anything.
I watched you on like this GQ thing on YouTube, and I don't even know how I stumbled across it, but I'm not gonna lie, like it. I felt like I could be a better quarterback after watching that. And you talked about your dad being a coach, and obviously like you like really learning the details of throwing the football and all that. And you could see it where you're teaching this guy who's never thrown the football before how to throw. And I thought just the way you did it, where you were very detailed with everything. You added like the humor to it, but you gave him confidence as well. And I was like, okay, like this dude's like a real coach, right? And somebody like me, I coach kids, I train kids, so I can see there's some people that just kind of like real dry. Maybe that works for them, but I thought you did a really good job of kind of making him be a little loosen up a little bit, and then be able to take to what it was exactly how what you were trying to teach him. But how did that come about? Because I believe it was GQ I was watching, and I looked through the comments. I don't know if you looked at the comments on the YouTube channel, but people loved it. Like they were raving about it throughout the entire chat.
Yeah, it was interesting how that happened. It was I did something for Deshaun with GQ, and then maybe like a month later they hit me like, oh, we got this guy Clay, whatever his name was. He's trying to learn how to play a bunch of different sports. Do you think you could teach him how to throw a football? I'm like, I think I can teach anybody how to kind of throw a football. So roll with it. But I did look through the comments, and that was refreshing because I mean, like y'all all know, if you coach people, you don't really know how you sound when you're communicating with others. Like we all think we're doing a good job. We hope that we're doing a good job. And I've always thought one of my strong suits was my ability to communicate with kids. But I was coaching a grown ass man that day. Like he's grown.
Yeah.
I didn't know like if he wanted to hear me cracking jokes and shit. Like, but I just am myself, and I try to make sure everybody feels comfortable to be themselves when we're out there working. And I think more than anything, it's not about how much about football I know, because I think that there's a lot of people who understand the quarterback position really, really well. I think the thing that comes off to quarterbacks that helps me coach them the best is they know I give a fuck. Like I give a fuck about them as a person. I care about their journey. Like I want them to be able to be successful. And I hope that came off in that thing, but that's what's allowed me the most success. Like all the guys' jerseys behind me are guys who knew that I cared. And we talk as much about shit not related to football as we do football.
I think that's the biggest thing. It's there's a lot of people that are in this business and make a pretty penny off of doing it. And I think that's the misconception is actually caring about the dudes you work with. Because at the end of the day, having a business, or as a business owner, me as a business, Crock as a business owner, their success at the end of the day comes back to you too. So if you're just taking money, right, you don't care how the kid develops, and he goes off and he's wearing the QB takeover shirt, he's wearing a Panelli passing camera shirt, and they go off and do shitty at these camps, or they show up to Elite 11 and they do shitty. That's a direct reflection of me. That's a direct reflection of you. So I think that from a business perspective, it's smart to be in the best interest, but as a person too. And if I have a problem with a kid, and he's got attitude or whatever it may be, I have no problem telling them right off the bat, like, hey, this is probably not meshing well. I'm going to be training quarterbacks whether you're coming to me or not. You might want to go find somebody else. And unfortunately, I've had to do that with a couple, and I'm sure you have as well, or parents don't like the way that you do things. And hey, it's not for everybody. But, I think at the end of the day, being able to give them opportunities to build, whether they want to be the best high school quarterback, whether it's the best college quarterback, the starter at their high school, or obviously have a chance to make it to the NFL. But being able to lay that groundwork for them and being a part of the process is a cool thing to see.
Quincy, you talked about Karen, and obviously, like a large portion of my subscribers to YouTube channel, my following on social media, a lot of 49er fans. And you see a guy like Trey Lance go down, and you know you've done work with Trey Lance, and you've kind of seen this whole process. But first, I just want to ask you when you hear how people talk about him in the media, right? And to me, I've thought like, man, this is kind of a unique scenario because I've never heard people so quick to kind of judge a kid before he can even really get going, and it's coming from all angles. So just kind of seeing that, and you kind of made somewhat of a comment when I saw you in Chicago at the game. We just randomly happened to be right there in the same section. So I was like, oh man, what's up, Quincy? But when you hear everything that people are saying about Trey Lance, like, and you know the kid, like how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel for him? Like,
Yeah, more than anything, I get confused because there's so little data to go off of that would give people any impression like how good or bad that he actually was.
Right.
So it throws me off. In the games that he's played, I think that you could say he probably's played better than Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not trying to knock Trevor. I love Trevor as a person, but like if you just look throw for throw, like when he's played, he's actually been able to do some things really successfully, create off schedule. But people have like this unrealistic expectation of him because they didn't see him play in college. He played at NDSU. So they think like, oh, it's not real. They expect him to go in the NFL and like immediately be successful. And I've seen some of the best quarterbacks. Like if we watch Deshaun Watson, if you watch his first game he started a Thursday night versus Cincinnati at Cincinnati, if you'd watch, you'd be like, I don't know how good this dude's going to be because he struggled.
I remember he struggled kind of throwing. He had the one play where he ran.
He had the good
It was a
run,
great
but
running play, but
he struggled, right? It was just a struggle. And every week he got a little bit better, but he had the opportunity to get those reps. And when he went in, there was no whispers about him putting somebody else in the game. Trey's never had the ability to go out there and just be confident, roll the ball out here. Here's your team. Go figure it out. Yeah, he played in the fucking monsoon against Chicago. I don't understand how anybody could be expected to be successful in that situation, but
they judged him. You got guys like Colin Cowherd, and we were listening to Colin Cowherd right on the way back from Chicago.
Destroyed him.
I mean, Colin Cowherd is just like, well, I don't care if it's a monsoon. I know what it's supposed to look like. I'm like, what? It was crazy out there.
Tell his whole ass to go out there and throw in a fucking monsoon. Let me see him. Let me see him do. And I would feel different if I didn't talk to other NFL quarterbacks and like, damn, I feel awful for him having to throw. Like, I don't know what I would have done, right? And these are other guys in the NFL who had to watch somebody playing a game like that. So, fuck Colin, honestly. But yeah. So, and then I don't think they know the type of person Trey is. I work with a lot of guys, and I'll put Trey Lance and Jalen Hurts on a level above everybody else in terms of the way that they work. And they want it that bad. They want to be successful. So I know that when he gets his opportunity, when he's back healthy, he's going to be fine.
All right, we got a question right here from my guy, the Newt, and he says, do you think Kyle Shanahan is constructing the best game plan to deploy or to develop Trey Lance? Like, so I guess essentially if you were the office coordinator, you're out there, you're calling plays, how would you go about getting a guy more reps, throwing to different areas of the field, maybe a guy that just hasn't played a whole lot, but now you have to kind of adjust to the NFL game? How would you go about that?
I can't really knock what Kyle's done because he's such a talented play caller.
Yeah.
I may run him a little bit less. I would give the illusion that he was running, create situations where it may look like zone read more than the things that they do. But Kyle Shanahan is one of the best, coordinators, play callers in the game of football. So it's hard for me to say anything. But he does a good job of getting people open in space off play actions, things like that. I didn't see him get on the edge as much as I would have hoped to. Chicago game, I think that was difficult. And then the next game, he was hurt so early that I don't think we got to see really what Kyle wanted to do. So we'll figure it out. I see somebody really doesn't like him as a play caller, but
no, it's been a hell of a week. The last actually a hell of a couple days with I've heard some guys, and Crock and I have talked about it off record, but just lighting Shanahan up for for running these guys and Trey Lance. And I think the thing that makes Justin and Trey Lance and Josh and Deshaun even and a lot of these newer quarterbacks that are twitchy, loose, off schedule playing guys, that's what makes them great. A lot of things with Shanahan as far as getting guys out of the box, right? They're predicated off of his abilities to move with his feet with Trey Lance or same with Justin, same with Jalen. Like those guys can take the ball and go at any time. And going back to that play, I think it was like GT bash counter or something like that. It was just guard. Yeah, it was just a tackle guard counter. Trent Williams pulled. He's reading the end. The end stays. Trey takes it, follows the guard and tackle right up the hole, and it's an unfortunate situation. And I think you would agree with me, obvious. I had a quarterback who went down this weekend against USC. I trained him all summer. He went down against USC this weekend. And the unfortunate thing is we're playing football, and a lot of people are going to blame Shanahan for this. I think that Trey's not going to blame Shanahan. I don't think anybody wants to blame Shanahan realistically because that's just a football play, and it's unfortunate that it happened, right? The things that Kyle were calling for Trey, he's calling for Trey because Trey is capable of doing those things, and he makes the offense unique with doing some of those things. Would I like to see a little bit less? Probably, but those are things that he does well, and he's trying to build him up and let him get his experience in the NFL. And it's an unfortunate situation. It was just a football play, and he went down, and here we are now with Jimmy playing. So, I think he made the right read too. It was a read type of play. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's just like quarterback power up the middle." No, it was a read play, and Trey made the right read, and he followed his guard and tackle up, and that's what happened. So,
yeah, and the only thing that sucks about this, if we think about, let's look back, he didn't play his last year of college.
Yep.
He didn't really play his rookie year. And now when we think he's about, so it's going to be 3 years with no real football for Trey, which I think is going to be really, really difficult. And now we got to see, like, what does Jimmy do with this team now? Right? I don't think that this team is Super Bowl good like they were previously. Like, I don't think that they have the opportunity to win a Super Bowl. So I think Trey still gets the keys next year. Jimmy won't be able to come back just because of financial reasons, and it'll be his show, and he'll have 3 years to prove himself as, the next quarterback of the 49ers.
How do you think he'll be like mentally? Because you talked about, Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance and kind of their mentality, and how it's kind of a step above a lot of the players. So do you think, going through this adversity will be something that, like, damn, he never was able to get over it? Or you're like, nah, like this dude, if there's anybody that's built to overcome something like this, it's Trey Lance.
Definitely. I think he is built to overcome like difficult situations like this. Like, he's had some tough stuff. Like, even his injuries he had in North Dakota State, like, he was banged up a lot and just figured out ways to, manage through it. But I think he's mentally tough enough. And I think that this will probably help him out more than anything. Like, this is the first time as an adult, he's got to figure out how to deal with this shit on his own. Right? Not look at anybody else. Like, it's just him on his own. How is he going to figure it out? And I think that he has the resilience to do that. Like, he's going to be tough enough mentally. And, of course, physically, he'll be fine.
All right, man. We got over 200 people in here right now. If y'all haven't already, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're joined here by Quincy Avery and, of course, Greg Panelli this Wednesday evening right now. Quincy, I want to ask you, because you started QB Takeover. So how did that whole thing go about? I love what you're doing. I wanted to ask. I told Greg I was joking. I was going to ask you, like, do you only train black quarterbacks? But
that's funny. I be getting that a lot. Like, folks think I'm out here just like, nah, white dudes, we off y'all. Nah, I mean, it so happens that all of my NFL quarterbacks, with the exception of one, are black. Well, actually, all my NFL quarterbacks now are black. My guy Ben DiNucci from the Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be in. He's a cool ass white dude. He'll be in the XFL. But no, I started it. I started Quarterback Takeover. I just wanted to help out guy backs, and 2 of my first clients were Josh Dobbs, Deshaun Watson. So, of course, people are seeing the way that those 2 play in the Atlanta area. They're like, oh, I want to play like that. Let me go to their trainer, right? Yeah. And a lot of guys who play like that happen to be black. And I've always made a commitment to making sure that I helped out as many black quarterbacks as I could, because I knew that it was a community of people who sometimes couldn't afford quarterback training in terms of getting the best coaching. And then two, they didn't always get the opportunities to play quarterback, right? Sometimes they'd be like, get your little black ass to safety or go to wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like
they made him do that. They told him get his ass to
Yeah.
receiver. Yeah.
Yeah, them dreads and shit. Yeah, take your ass right out there. So, yeah, I'm like, I want to make sure that these guys feel like they have, the support of somebody who, wants them to be a quarterback and can help them do that. So that's what I do. I do it. I do a lot of stuff for like HBCU quarterbacks, stuff like that. So I think that also, in the same way that young high school guys saw me training those guys and wanted to play like that, there's other guys in the NFL who be like, okay, my game might be similar to them. Like, let me go to Atlanta and just see what this dude's talking about. And usually it sticks.
That's real.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Quincy, because a lot of this stuff came up last year, and obviously you did Trey's draft prep for him. And the biggest thing I think was the mechanics, right? Everybody wanted to talk about Trey's mechanics because it looked different and this and that. And, I talked about it a little bit. It looks different, but a lot of, I think people have the misconception that we as quarterback trainers can take a kid that's 19, 20, 21 years old, whatever it may be, 22, and he's throwing like this his whole life, and give us 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, and completely revamp his mechanics and change it, and that's supposed to stick for the rest of his life. And then I tell people, look, there's a reason why Tom Brady has gone to a quarterback coach for 22 years or whatever it may be. Like, he's trying to work on little things over and over and over, and it's not as easy as people think. Like, he needs to go spend time in the offseason and work with a quarterback coach to fix the bringing the ball up out of the carriage and then kind of making it longer, whatever it may be. But in doing so, or during the draft prep, what are some of the keys I think that you worked on with Trey, or did that bother you with him lifting the ball up a little bit, then pushing it down? What are some of those things that you guys kind of tuned in on?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we worked on, it's kind of nerdy, but you'll get it. We worked on his foot strike, right? Because Trey's stride was really, really long, so it took him a little bit longer to get his foot in the ground. And a lot of that worked hand in hand with the longer, like, throwing motion, right? He'd go up and down because he had time, because in order for the body to sequence, like, his foot wasn't on the ground, so it didn't matter where his hands were at that time. So what we tried to do was get him to lower his carriage at that time, get his foot in the ground quicker so that he could throw. Now, the thing about Trey is his body moves a little bit different than other quarterbacks in which I've worked with. So since his body moves different, like, he's going to throw a little bit different, right? Just like his body moves like a Matthew Stafford in terms of his ability to rotate, right? So he's not necessarily the most fluid rotator. And on the other example, Justin Fields and Deshaun Watson are really, really fluid rotators, right? So they could throw all day. Arms are great. Like, they'll never get tired of throwing. Like, they have no pitch count. Like, they're good like that. And Trey just moves different. So we have to do different things to help him reach his maximum potential. So there's always, like, just little things, little nuances for guys. But it pissed me off when people were talking about that in the draft prep. But I knew that he improved a ton in the 12 weeks we worked together. Oh, no, it was actually longer than that because he didn't have his senior season. So he was there for a long ass time. But I knew that he got a lot better in the time that we got a chance to work together. So I didn't, it's like, you see people talk shit, but you also see stupid people on Twitter who know nothing about how to throw a football, right? Talking about shit that they might have heard somebody say. And they're like, oh, why doesn't he point his toe to the target? And you're like, yeah, this guy needs to shut the fuck up. So that's the shit we deal with. And I don't, like, at this point, I started to get to the point where I don't care what anybody says. Like, the two options for me to reply on Twitter, like, if I can get a shot off and make a joke where I feel like I can make you feel stupid, or I won't reply.
No, I feel you there. And I think that's the biggest part, is taking, realistically, especially with these older guys, is taking what they do well, right, and building on those things. How can we build on those things instead of just trying to completely revamp and screw these guys up? Because it's just not reality. And I think that's the biggest misconception. And there's plenty of writers, there's plenty of people I see on Twitter that have something to say every single week about this guy and this guy and this guy. And it's the same thing with Josh.
Yeah.
And we saw it over and over and over. And it's like,
yeah, Josh drops a. Oh, my bad to cut you off. Josh drops the ball a little bit. He drops the ball a little bit, but it's okay. like we measured Trevor Lawrence's like load to target, which is when their hands separate until when the ball gets to where it's going, in comparison to Trey. And Trey's was like consistently faster.
Yeah.
And no one talks about how long Trevor's lever is. Like it takes a long time. And I'm not trying to pick on Trevor because I like him as a quarterback.
Why would you say that? Like, do you think it's because Trevor Lawrence is white and Trey Lance is black?
I don't think that's necessarily because he's white and because he's black. I think that it's because Trevor has had the favor of being the number one quarterback. People have looked at him as a number one quarterback since he's been in 10th grade. Like he's a surefire, can't miss prospect. So we not going to knock him in the same ways because everybody agreed that he was the best. So let's just move on.
Even though we don't see it.
Even though we haven't seen it yet. Right.
He played well last week. Last week, there's been a couple games now where.
So you're gonna say 2 games?
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just saying, like week 17, they knocked out Indianapolis Colts. Like he was on fire.
This week.
And then this past week, like he was on fire.
Last 5 years.
No, not in the last. I mean, but as far as being an NFL quarterback, yeah, it's been more underwhelming than, you know.
I don't see it, and I'm not a big fan of him. So. I'm just being honest. Like.
Yeah, and I'll play devil's advocate here. Like in on the flip side of it, and this was what I always thought. You see guys, especially for the Browns. I mean, how many quarterbacks did the Browns pick over and over and over and over? And they just had a shitty team all around, right? There was coaching stuff there. There was a shit team all around, and I think that, you get Heisman winners that are first round draft picks, first overall. They end up on a shitty team, and 3 years later they're pretty much out of the league or they're backups because they never really got a true chance to develop. And I think that could be the case because Jacksonville's not built the same as they used to be built, and they were very, very solid on defense, and their offense has just kind of been wishy-washy. So I don't know. I'm just playing devil's advocate on that one because
I hear you.
I think that if you put him in a better situation, things might be a little bit better for him. That's just my opinion. Right.
And I think that's what most people are saying. You look at what Trevor Lawrence has dealt with over there in Jacksonville, the Urban Meyer debacle. Like he was over there kicking kickers. Did you hear about that, Greg?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. What are we doing?
Yeah.
I think one part of like professional athletes, and I'm pretty sure both of y'all see this kind of dealing with professional athletes and whatnot, is a lot of fans. They don't view them as like normal people.
Right.
And I know even me, before I made it to the NFL, I put NFL players like on a pedestal, and it's like, man, like, this guy. And like, that's how you view them until you're around them. And you're like, these niggas just like me. Like, they just got more money.
Not only is they just like you, a lot of times, and I've been fortunate to not have that many corny dudes, but a lot of times pro athletes be corny as fuck. Because they spent the years that I spent trying to be cool, like trying to get on girls, like doing the shit that are gonna make people like you. They spent that getting better at sports, right? Yeah. And they didn't worry about like trying to be cool, like they just were cool because they were good at sports. So a lot of times they just be like super lame. You looking like, oh man, you a fucking cornball. But I hate that people be putting pro athletes on this pedestal like that because they just they have more money, but they're hella normal.
Yeah. That was one of the things I've seen. Yeah. But so what's next? What's next for Quincy, man? You got QB takeover going up, man. I did want to touch on the swag, the drip, the field, like on the field, right? Because your stuff be on point. I'm not gonna lie, Greg Panelli, he be sending me pictures like, yeah, Quincy ain't got nothing on this.
Hold on.
Yeah, Greg.
I gotta see. What we talking about? We talking about
man. Just while they're training.
Man,
they're like, nah, Quincy be on point. When I was looking through, I'm like, I gotta find the picture for like Quincy be on point for sure. But Greg was nasty.
Greg, you're not fucking with this. Like, one room. This is just like one of the rooms. So
they're all upstairs right now. I can't take.
So you
say what you got on your feet right now?
Yeah,
what you got on your feet right now?
I just got my house shoes on.
Man, see, we're gonna have a little battle right here.
So
I have a little something on the feet then.
Greg, clarify. So your drip, your coaching drip, your training drip is harder than his?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see
I like the confidence.
Look, you see the little Oregon Griffey's on today?
He said that with such a lack of confidence. Like he didn't really believe it. He's like,
no, I gotta say this.
I gotta say it right now, but all right.
Quincy has set the standard for the on-field drip for sure. So I'll give it to him. In the South, from the Midwest over, Quincy's got it on lock. I'm gonna take the West Coast though. I'm gonna say I got it.
I got
Take
see
it.
this.
And then,
No,
and then
Greg,
he also,
Greg, I'm
you
not
know,
gonna
one thing
lie,
I
Greg,
noticed-
Greg's
Greg
trainer
does a good
drip.
job.
'Cause
He does well.
I'm
so
trying.
Quincy, we played with Greg. So we played with Greg at Modesto Junior College,
Mm-hmm.
and Greg had
First
Nah.
of all, wore number 16, so
it was
First of all,
nasty.
come
He
on
wore
now.
these white cleats that were really ugly with the black socks.
we don't have to do him like
He's in much better shape now than when he was actually playing. So he kind of looked like I don't know, like kind of like a Cabbage Patch dog because he had the little curls on top.
that.
He ain't had a cool haircut he got now.
Man, it's a roast session. I'm coming on for the roast session today. Holy
Uh,
shit!
Like the
First of all,
running
you
back
didn't
for
even give me.
USC.
Oh, he said die.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's a
Give me
little
a
nasty,
chance
but
to-
no, I'm complimenting you though because like seeing you then and then how you put it together on the field now, I'm like, yeah, top 5 for sure.
I see your on-field outfits. Like I be checking it out. I think you do a good job. I have an unfair advantage though. Like I don't
I
pay
know
for
you-
any clothes, so
I
it doesn't.
know you do.
So it just like I feel like it's pretty hard to touch. Like I got a
No,
Nike.
but you still got to put it together though.
I
I
was
do.
gonna say the Nike, and I obviously have some access to it. The
Yeah.
Nike Elite count hits a little different. I know that.
So it's just like
It
I'm
makes things a
cheating
little
right
bit easier. Yeah, but Quincy got a little bit more access than I do as far as the Nike Elite.
Here we go. We had a super chat here. I didn't get to. I meant to get to here, but could this be a good thing to help Trey with his throwing mechanics? So I'm assuming that they're asking like him getting hurt. I'll answer this question. I don't think there's any way that it helps him. I think the biggest thing right now for Trey Lance has been he just needs the reps and just to see it, right? Because he didn't play a whole lot at North Dakota State where other guys played 3-4 years in college. He didn't get that opportunity. And even when he was playing, they just didn't throw the ball a whole lot. So then you get to the NFL where just naturally you're going to throw the ball more, but he hasn't had those reps. So a lot of people talk about the throwing mechanics and whatnot. To me, I think the biggest difference is he just hasn't seen the coverages and whatnot. Because I will say this, and I look at all like just the little things, right? Like I look at the smallest of details as it pertains to Trey Lance and just kind of the progression that he's making. And up until he got hurt, like I look at the Seattle game, he only threw 3 passes. One, I mean, we're going to chalk that up because it was a bootleg and the pressure was in his face right now. But just watching him, I thought a lot of things that people had issues with. Oh, he doesn't make decisions as quick. Oh, he doesn't complete the short to intermediate throws. Well, over the first couple weeks, he showed that he can do those things. He got the ball in his hands right now. He was being accurate to short to underneath throws. He didn't have any real issues that looked crazy until the tsunami started hitting and then the ball started going everywhere. But up to that point, the timing was good. He threw the ball down the field. He was stretching it, being accurate down the field. Over the middle, he was stepping up in the pocket, throwing with timing. So I thought he was taking strides in the right direction. I don't think that the injury helps him at all. We got a question here from Clinton. He says, what is the hardest part about being part of the Elite 11 experience? So I'm pretty sure this is for Quincy.
He must. He's probably talking about shit. For me, is I have to travel to all these cities. I'm on the flight more than I need to be. For the kids, it's like learning that playbook. Playbook's really, really difficult for a high school kid who doesn't know the difference between like a progression with the option, a pure progression, or a key read progression. Like those things that you have to really quickly pick up and process, understand like a free access defender, overhangs, like all those little intricate details that you'll probably be asked to understand in college, we're asking to learn in 2 weeks. So that's the most difficult part, like at the Elite 11 finals. But the regionals and shit is just like, we want to see who can throw football.
All right, okay. And then we got a question here from my guy, Terra Dome. He says, Quincy, I noticed Trey's left hand is laying down on release or standing up in front of his chin. Greg, you can read this because I think this is quarterback.
No, he's talking about his front hand dropping down a little bit here or equal opposite, whatever you want to call it, versus keeping it a little bit higher. I think that's what he's trying to get at the release.
Like prior to the release, right? Like the symmetry of here, but he always brings it back. It's not, it doesn't stay there. So one of the problems that Trey did have when he was in draft prep was he would go here, and then he would get what I call a soft front side. It's not what I call, but it's what it's called. Soft front side. So he didn't bring his front side in to get firm. As long as you're here and you're firm and you're not crunching, your head's not moving, then you're fine. Like some people stay here the whole time. I think that probably hurts you more than it helps you. Drew Brees did you said Brees, but Brees separated in the same way that Trey does, right? He just did a really good job of getting back here with his front side mechanics. So as long as you're good with your front side mechanics, and I think he's talking about at the finish. I mean, at this equal opposite portion, right? If that's what you're talking about, I'm not a biggest stickler here. As long as you can do a good job with your front side mechanics when it's time to throw and we're not soft, leaning, head's not moving.
Yep.
All right, Terry, I hope that answers your question. I just learned a little bit there, right there. And last thing before we get out of here, man, we got David here, and he says, Crocker, you need to hook up with John Chapman more often. Locked On ain't it? I will say this, man. Locked On is definitely it. Locked On is definitely it. And as far as Locked On 49ers, man, we're getting over 20,000 plus listens per day. So no, we're Locked On is it. Locked On is it. I just had to kind of go in here and say that real quick. But aside from that, man, Quincy, appreciate you coming on here and educating us on some of the things pertaining to not just Trey Lance, but some of the other quarterbacks around the league that you've had the pleasure of working with. That was dope. Greg Panelli, of course. You got anything else for him, Greg?
No, I'm not gonna keep much longer. I think it was good. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all.
Minutes of his time.
When Trey's back, you know what I'm saying? I'm down to do this as much as we can when Trey's rolling. Can y'all watch film on here or not?
Yeah, we watched some last week. We actually talked about some of those throws, and a lot of people were lighting up Trey. It's funny being out here. I will say this: being out here on the West Coast and then growing up a 49ers fan. And I didn't mind Jimmy Garoppolo for what he did and what he's done for the 49ers. And like I told you guys before, or everybody on here, people were very quick to forget where the 49ers were before Jimmy showed up. And then Trey shows up and he did well. And obviously him being hurt now, but I think people were hammering him for playing that damn monsoon. But we did go back and look at some clips. Some of those layered throws that he was able to make in the rain were very elite throws.
Did you see the fucking deep cross that he threw?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was one of the three best throws from that weekend. Mahomes had a deep cross, very similar, not in the monsoon. Justin Herbert had a deep cross to the right off like a conflict where he reset his feet. Like he had one of the best throws to me. And his interception was kind of tricky. Like he got fooled by one Robert, but whatever. But yeah, when we can watch him film, I want to nerd out with y'all and talk more of that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. We'll get you on. We'll get you on. We'll talk some stuff with some of the other guys too. We'll get some Jalen Hurts film on here too. I think that would be good to look at here and there and breaking down some clips of some of these guys and then we'll get out to we're gonna do a podcast at some point. I told Croc we're gonna do it at a tailgate in the Bay Area or wherever it may be, and do it live for the folks and then watch the game.
Let's do it.
Yes,
appreciate y'all.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming on, Quincy.
Right.
All right, Greg. We'll hang out just a few minutes longer here and just kind of get some of your thoughts on what's going on with the 49ers right now and their quarterback situation or anything. No, you know what? Let's not start with the quarterback 49ers. Let's start with Josh Allen. And, because, I mean, we're watching it, right? We're tuned in. We're locked in. We see Josh Allen and kind of, all the amazing things that he's doing right now. But this might be like a loaded question. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people maybe, I don't think they think of the question this way, but why does it look so easy for Josh Allen?
I think the biggest thing for Josh in the first couple of years, this goes along with Trey's and a lot of younger quarterback development is you can't force the development. And I think that's what people got to understand too. And Quincy was a guy that said this last year, and he's had plenty of guys that come out of college into the NFL that rookie quarterbacks are not 99.9% of them are not ready to play in the NFL day one. That's just a fact of the matter. And we see it year after year. But I think the thing with Josh is they didn't rush his development. Okay. And that is the biggest thing to me is they, at first he was trying to play a particular way in the NFL, an NFL type quarterback, the pocket passer guy. That's not his game. Being a pocket passer, yes, he does it well, but you see what he does on the move, and that's what makes him elite. Throwing off schedule, off platform. Mahomes the same way. Herbert the same way. These guys get outside the pocket, and they're so dangerous at doing those things. But he's finally playing how he's played his whole life, how he played in college. And that's what makes Josh different. And I think that him playing like that now has allowed him to relax a little bit, and he knows that he's got the talent around him. There is times, and I see in the comment, do you worry about Josh getting hurt on those runs? I wouldn't say it's a thought in the back of my head, but at some point or another, yeah, like you got to kind of think, damn, man. I was at the Rams game a couple of weeks ago, and he's running in the fourth quarter. It's like, dude, like, just let's not do that in the fourth quarter when you're up by however much you are. So
Right.
There is times, but I'm not thinking about it all the time. I mean, again, unfortunately, we're dealing with it right now as 49er fans. It's a part of the game. I had a kid, and we talked about this. We're Jake Haener. We talked about him being a potential, second or third round draft pick this year. Played against USC this weekend. I trained him all spring and summer long, and he goes down and he ends up messing up his ankle this past weekend. And I trained the backup, and so it's the next guy up, and that's just kind of how football is. Whether you like it or not, that's just how it is. And I don't think these guys are out there either. Trey's not out there thinking, shit, coach, Shanahan just calls counter right now. I don't want to run this because I don't want to get hurt. That those guys aren't thinking of it. They're thinking, hey, this is my opportunity. I got to do what I can with it, and whatever happens, happens. And so Josh is just playing ball, man. He's having fun out there. You guys could see the vibe. The vibe in Buffalo is way different. It is way different than what it was 4 years ago. And I think a lot of those guys are having fun. The defense is clicking. I saw a stat the other day. I think Fox posted it or whatever it may be. Is they've won 20 consecutive regular season games by 20 points or more. So their defense is clicking on all cylinders. They're playing really well. They should have played in the AFC Championship game, but unfortunately their defense wasn't clicking when Josh was scoring, then Mahomes scored. Josh was scoring, Mahomes scores, and then a coin toss decides, what's going to happen basically in that game. So Josh has a full-throated endorsement of his team, coach, organization, city, and staff. Yeah, I would agree.
But hold on. I got something off of that. Has it always been like that?
No,
like, was it like that from, in the sense of like full endorsement from everybody, the city, the staff, everybody, like, rookie year, was everybody just 100% on board with whatever they saw from him after that year?
I think it's different in the market that they're in because Josh is a blue collar type of guy. He came from a farming family and he goes to Wyoming, and it was always, an underdog to everybody, and kind of goes and fits in with that type of script there in Buffalo. So I think that's a little bit different. But I do get what you're saying. And I think that it's like that here. And I'm assuming that you're getting at Trey doesn't necessarily have the full-throated endorsement of his team, organization, city staff.
What is full-throated? Because I don't think I'm not familiar with it.
I'm going to, walk outside and yell it that they love Josh, I'm assuming is kind of what that is. But
when I think of full-throated, is
easy.
Yeah,
Pause.
I don't know. I just saying, like,
no.
Okay, but go
Donald
ahead.
knows where you're going with it. Don't know. No,
my bad.
We're not doing this right now. But anyways, I think that the reason it's like that there is because there wasn't much there before, right? They had Tyrod Taylor, and Tyrod Taylor, believe it or not, took them to the playoffs. Did he not?
Yeah, the year before Josh
Okay.
Allen showed up.
So then Josh shows up, but the expectations were not necessarily that high because Tom Brady was still in the division and they didn't anticipate on winning. Trey Lance shows up to a team that was just in a Super Bowl the year before that, right? And Jimmy G is there, which he was capable and is capable of leading the team, right? And there was a lot of people that, well, why are you taking a quarterback this early? Why did you give up so much draft equity? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Right. And I think the messing with that cohesiveness of the team and what they've done, and then Trey having to step in, and then it's like there's expectations like you got to be the guy. If you're not right away, get the hell out because we didn't have any issue before. You know what I'm saying? And I think that has a little bit to do with it. So he's in. Niner fans do it. Niner fans.
Is it bad? Okay. Here, I think when he was drafted, right, when Trey Lance was drafted, you think, oh man, this is the best situation for a quarterback to go to. But could this have been potentially the worst situation for him to go to just based on everything that's surrounding this team?
Wait, say
Like
that
with the
again. I got caught up in the
expectations,
chat
with
over here
who
with
was there
Crocker going
before.
very, very deep joke and all this stuff over here. I had to tune into the chat for a second because it's
Oh
a
yeah,
while there.
okay.
But anyways, go ahead. Say that again.
Yeah, you gotta get out the chat, man. You gotta get
Yeah,
out the
I gotta
chat.
get out of the chat real quick. Sorry.
Okay, hold on. Terry don't give us the full-throated definition. Come on, man. Nah, he gave us the definition. So,
He had to make it clear for everybody, including.
so here we
Crocker.
go. Full-throated, yelling and demanding from the top of your lungs. The belief, this is my guy, this is my QB. One, no debate, no discussion, no negotiating.
Right. Yeah, the whole.
And
city is behind him.
again, my wife would have a different definition of full-throated, but
Who came up with this terminology? Like the full, I never heard this full throated thing.
I don't know.
Not being dead ass though. Like I'm not trying to mess up the show, but I'm just saying like who like in the sports.
This went off.
Like,
This
if we're
is
playing
off the
football
rails.
or like any type of sports. Who's gonna be like full throated?
I don't know.
I forgot my whole question.
Yeah, Crocky after dark. Yes, it's not even 8 o'clock out here. Not
All
yet.
right,
But anyway, so we gotta say that for like 9 o'clock. Late night.
It's already it's 9 o'clock somewhere. It's past 9 o'clock here already. So
the
I see your wife in the chat.
She's definitely not in the chat right now.
No, she's in the chat. Do you want me to bring it up?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So she's getting all the full-throated conversation right now.
Oh, here we go. Oh, there she is in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, she is. She knows I was gonna make a joke, but I'm not. I'm not.
You're not gonna do it now?
I'm
Don't
not
be shy
doing it.
now.
I'm not doing on live here. But you know, Josh has the dudes on cereal boxes that are sold in stores, right? Like that market is so different up there. He's on coffee commercials now. He's got to deal with the children's hospital, and it's almost kind of like that here. It's weird. Here in Fresno, where Derek Carr played, Derek Carr kind of has that same following, right? Yeah. For the Raider fans, they look at him very similar to what they would look at with Josh. And it's like almost like the guy can do no wrong type thing. Like it's weird, but at the same time, he's earned that now. But it wasn't. I don't think year one it was like that. And part of it also comes from the media, right? You kick down these negative comments on these guys over and over. Trey's not it. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. His mechanics are screwed up. We don't know if he's going to play. He hasn't played enough football. And then people start getting influenced, right? And I think that people need to be a little bit more open-minded to the kid is a young kid who hasn't played a ton of football yet. Once he has a good opportunity, let's give him a full year to show what he's got, right? Or a year and a half. Right. And then let's start making your decisions on whether you love the guy or not, right? And so, it was like Jimmy comes in, he wins 5 games. Next year he gets hurt. Screw it. We got to move on, right? There's some people, Jimmy's not the answer. He's injury prone. And he comes back, goes to the Super Bowl, right? And then he gets hurt. And then they go back to the end. So it's like the problem is I think here people are so eager, including myself. And I think you would say the same thing. People are so eager to win a Super Bowl because they know that they should have won, against the Ravens, right? Go down all the way down the 5-yard line after Frank Gore runs, and we go throw fade passes 3 or 4 in a row, whatever the hell it may be to Crabtree, right? And you go back to the Chiefs Super Bowl. We have 7 minutes left in the game. Pound the rock. Let's get a couple more first downs and let's finish this thing. And then shit hits the fan. You know what I'm saying? So I think people are so eager that at this rate, the leash is so damn thin because we've gotten so close and have failed a couple times. They don't care who's in the damn game. And personally, I've told you this last year. I don't care who the quarterback is. I liked Jimmy. I like Trey. I don't give a shit if it's a backup that played 10 years ago that wins the Super Bowl with the Niners. I just want the Niners to win. And I'm a fan of the 49ers. And so I want them to win. Now, if Josh plays the 49ers in the Super Bowl, it's probably going to be a different story. I might have to.
What? You going to root against the Niners?
It would be like this. Put it this way. If Donald is playing in the Super Bowl, and I know this is going to be tough. If Donald was playing in the Super Bowl for the Steelers, right? He's a Steeler fan. He's playing for the Steelers, and they're playing the 49ers. are you going to show up to that game and root against Donald and hope that your best friend doesn't win?
I'm not. I'll have his jersey on.
But deep down, here's the thing: if the Niners won the Super Bowl,
So you're saying it's
Josh,
a win-win for you?
It's a lose-lose.
Oh.
Because if Josh wins the Super Bowl, I'm happy for him, but then the Niners lost another damn Super Bowl. If the Niners win the Super Bowl, yeah, I might be happy that the Niners won, but I can't be going out there and being flashy and posting it that we won another Super Bowl because I got him seeing all my shit on social media like, damn, screw this guy.
I like that.
He's not my best friend.
Right.
You know, whatever it may be. So, yeah, it is. It's going to be it would be a bittersweet thing, but
Nah. Johnny said, nah, Greg, we are throated on winning the Super Bowl.
What?
Like you gotta scream it outside from the top of the mountains.
Okay, I shouldn't have been involved in this stuff.
No, we're gonna have to change this to the never mind.
This is the
Throated
fully
podcast.
throated podcast.
Whoa.
Pause.
Whoa.
Here we
but
go. We got a serious question here, or a serious comment here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The thing is, our roster is set up to win now, not in 2 years. And my thing is, at least the way I look at it, if you have a good quarterback, you're always set up to win, right? For the most part. Now, obviously, like, you know, a player here and there can kind of, you know, swing things one way or the other. But if you have a good organization, you have a good quarterback, you're going to be in the mix, right? Like, I feel like regardless of who Josh Allen has on his team, I mean, you give him Stephon Diggs and a fairly decent defense, and they're going to that window's always going to be open. There's always going to be that opportunity. Will they always be the number one? Because right now, they have the best odds to win the Super Bowl. So maybe it's
the 49ers do or the Bills do?
The Bills.
Yeah. Well, somebody else told me tonight that now the 49ers had surpassed them in the odds, but I was in a disagreement.
They are creeping up.
They went up because of Jimmy G.
Right. And
which
so,
I think is right. Okay, so let's touch on that, right? And you could just tell me if I'm tripping. And I heard JT.
No, and I think that it falls in line with this right here. I think we're going on the right direction.
All right, so and I heard JT O'Sullivan say, but I've been saying this, right? Like, I mean, you've heard me talk about this, like what the 49ers need. And this is just my opinion on this, and I could 100% be wrong. But I strongly feel like, you know, I've watched enough of Jimmy. I know exactly who Jimmy Garoppolo is. I know who he is. I know what he is and what he isn't. And I do feel like Jimmy Garoppolo, if you ask me today, who gives the 49ers, it's hard to even say that. Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion, I know that you can win a Super Bowl with him.
Right.
You just need everything to go your way.
Right.
And I think that's a hard way to win the big game.
No, it is. Absolutely. Where you go look at.
Right.
Like
So
Mahomes.
my thought process, and I said it last year when they didn't play Trey Lance, but I said, you need to get Trey Lance up to speed at the best way possible because your Super Bowl odds will be better for it the better he is. Because there's just certain aspects of his game that Jimmy just can't touch. Now, is Trey Lance all the way there yet? No. But can you get it to the point where he's starting to complete, you know, be more efficient with the underneath stuff and then give you the stuff that we've seen him do, throw down the field, make plays with his legs, first downs, etc. And once you put that together, now you have better odds of winning the Super Bowl. So right now I look at it like, and we had this conversation the other day on the phone, I think, yeah, you can win the Super Bowl with Jimmy. Matter of fact, I said it, like, I feel more comfortable today that the 49ers are a playoff team, or more confident that the 49ers are a playoff team now than I did with Trey Lance. So for me, it was never about 100% just this year, right? And I know everybody can't look at it like that. Everybody can't think about it like that. But it's just like the sooner you get him up to speed, your team will be better for it. Your team will be able to overcome certain circumstances that Jimmy just has shown, like, well, he's not quite that guy, especially in the biggest of moments. Good quarterback. You can definitely win, and I want to make sure I say this loud and clear. You can win a Super Bowl. You can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
But just everything got to go perfect. Or he needs that damn Buccaneers versus Raiders game where your defense just scores hella touchdowns and they just destroy a team and there's just no coming back. Jimmy can be the Super Bowl winning quarterback of that team.
Right. And I think that that was a thing that I had talked about a couple years ago when the Niners ended up playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The worst case scenario team they were going to play was going to be the Chiefs because they had a quarterback with abilities and they could pretty much score at will. I thought if the Patriots are playing the Niners in that Super Bowl, that it's I'm not saying they're the same, but Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are not the same as far as quarterback playing style. I felt like the Niners defense would have jumped all over Tom Brady. Now, it is a Super Bowl. I get it. But I felt the Niners would have jumped on his ass in the Super Bowl. With
Well,
the
it wasn't
D-line,
even
the way that
just him. It was jumping on potentially the Houston Texans. It was the Tennessee Titans. Like 49ers would have destroyed Tennessee Titans.
That's what I felt like. The Niners would have been set up to play any other team in the AFC and probably have waxed them. Coming off that win against Green Bay, look what they did against Aaron Rodgers. They destroyed him. Jimmy had to do what he had to do. Play action was working great. The run game was killing it. They did whatever the hell they wanted to do, right? But then you go play against Pat Mahomes, and there's 7 minutes left in the game, and we saw what happened. That's my thought this year is the Niners would be set up to win against pretty much everybody. But you go play the Chiefs again, or you go play the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl, and Jimmy's got to play against those two guys. It's going to be hard to win a game. And that, unfortunately, the expectation is not to just get back to the big game. It's to win the damn big game, right? Other people's, hey, let's make the playoffs. No. We've seen the playoffs enough already, right? Russell Wilson, he and that's the whole comment with Joe Staley saying he hates Russ. I mean, as a Niner fan, I hated Russ, right? The Russell Wilson made the Seahawks who they are, why they're relevant. Yes, their defense did really well, but the Niners were all over his ass, and he's running around back there like Kyler Murray does now or did last Sunday, and he was doing that to the Niners all the time and making plays. And so you get quarterbacks that are able to do those things off script. It's hard to keep up because they just make plays. And Jimmy is a good playmaker when things are on time and scripted for him to do those things, right? Play action, pop your head around, boom, ball's out. When shit hits the fan, how do you operate? And he doesn't necessarily operate that well. So Kyle has to be somewhat limited with mid-level passes, things that aren't necessarily super far down the field, hit your fifth step in your drop, balls out, whatever it may
be. That's realistic. And again, you're like the 49ers Super Bowl odds went up. The 49ers, I think their win-loss, like it went up. And I get that. Like I agree with that, right? Like, you won't hear me say, oh, just 100% Trey Lance, he could do everything. Jimmy can grow. No, I think you're more confident with what we know we're getting from Jimmy than Trey. But for me, it's what's the big picture? And I look at that in aspects of our life, right? Like, you talked about, your journey as a quarterback trainer, what you were doing before. You had a nice little, cushy job, et cetera, right? And then it was like, man, but I want to do this.
Right.
And it was risky.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And I'm pretty sure the wife would be like, oh, yeah, it was a little, we didn't know.
Right.
And then, but you being all in on that, and then obviously things, you got the pandemic, that stuff all helps. But where it's going to now, you know what I'm saying? And I think there are a lot of people that don't understand like that. Where, I can do this and I'm cool and I'm setting and safe and I know what I'm getting and cool and we're doing good, like whatever. But like, man, there's more, but I might have to, it's a risk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I get that. I think you get that. And I think that's my thoughts with the 49ers and their situation where it's like, you can keep playing it safe, but you're going to be like a dog chasing his tail.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that the biggest thing, and we talked about it, and I'm not going to mention who it was, but I'm sure people will assume or understand is certain writers that write for the 49ers or in interviews, have come out and say, it's day 1,000 and Jimmy's still on the damn team and day whatever the hell it may be. And Jimmy's still on the 49ers, and even though he wasn't practicing. And I'm honestly, I'm generally curious, because I'm glad, and I know most people, I would assume that most people would be, is you get people like that are negative towards the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. And then other people feed in and buy into it instead of just making their own, assumptions or beliefs or whatever it may be off of that. Is we are here now. People wanted Jimmy gone. Why isn't Jimmy gone? Get the hell out of here. Jimmy, your time has come. Blah, 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 blah. Now, Trey Lance is hurt. And I said this to you yesterday. This day, whatever. And thank God that Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the 49ers, because we would be in a pretty shitty situation right now if Jimmy Garoppolo was gone. And by the way, he took a fat pay cut. He's a cheap NFL starter now. He was an expensive backup. Now he's a cheap
Even if
NFL
he reaches
starter.
his max earnings.
Even if
it's
he
still
wins all the
cheap.
damn games, he's still getting less than what he would have made.
Yeah.
But thank God that he's on the team, because they still have a chance. And I think that is the biggest thing that people need to look at, is the Niners still have a chance, right? So, yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, I wanted to see Trey develop. I thought he showed some really good things in the Bears game. And a lot of people like to focus on the negatives, and we show a lot of the positives. You're like, oh shit, he actually did a lot of these things really well. And it goes back to what you talked about. I don't necessarily think that Trey was all the way developed. So you got to do some things to get him comfortable, right? You talk about guys coming in the first play of the game. What is it usually? A run play or what? A short pass play, a 5-yard route, a stick route, an out route, whatever it may be. Basically a gimme route. Why? Let's get this guy to settle in a little bit. Let's get him some confidence, or let's get the nerves out, because that's just how it is playing football. And you got to give Trey an opportunity.
You know what, though? I remember his first preseason game against Kansas City Chiefs. Do you remember the first couple plays that he ran? So the first play that he ran, they ran that play where I think the guys were reading the DBs, and they ran like these deep comebacks. Right. And then Trey Lance, it was kind of covered. Maybe it wasn't as clear. So he stepped up in the pocket, rolled right, threw a strike to Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk dropped it. His very next throw was the 80-yard touchdown. So there was a point in time where Kyle was dialing up these, and maybe there was this different level of, Trey Lance. I don't know any better, right? So I'm just gonna go out there. I'm just gonna let it rip. I'm gonna let it fly. So do you think maybe?
I think that part that falls in line with some preseason stuff. Let's see if we like this versus this. Let's see if we like that.
Okay.
And like going to a scrimmage, right? Like high school games. Go back to a scrimmage. You're not throwing everything out there on the field, right? You got like 10 plays you're going to run for that scrimmage, and that's it. We're not showing anything else. And I think that's kind of how defenses are. It's preseason is more, and somebody brought up a point. Preseason is more for the guys that are just showing up onto the team, practice squad guys, whatever it may be. Let's see who can actually play and make this roster, because the veterans don't even play. Really, like somebody said it, I don't know who it was, but weeks like 1 through 3 or 1 through 4 in the NFL are basically like preseason for the veterans, right? Like look at Joe Burrow. They were using that as an example. Joe Burrow hasn't had a hot start. He finished great, hasn't had a hot start. But he didn't play a ton in preseason, right? So it's like, or he didn't even play.
Probably didn't play at all in preseason, probably.
So now these guys are gone, 8-9 months without taking snaps. Like, yeah, it's going to take them a little bit to adjust. And then you get a guy like Trey, and played in 2 years. And that's the big thing here is now he's not going to have played basically a lot of football within a 3-year time frame and come back. And how is that going to be? So
yeah, and even Quincy Avery came on and said like that's pretty damn different.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But before we get to that question really quick, so keep it there. This is me just evaluating and listening to the post-game interviews, and we talked about this as well. People were pissed off. A writer had said, why would you run the ball up the middle with Trey Lance when it's 2nd and 8 and they're not in a nickel defense, and there's these big behemoth D linemen and D linemen and linebackers in the game, and you go back and watch the film, right? And I'm just making a point here. What defense was in the game on that play when he got hurt?
It was nickel
defense. So for the people that are in the chat, because I know you guys like to pay attention to some of the things we necessarily see on Twitter, but don't believe everything you hear from these guys. Let them go back and watch the tape. And some of these guys, they do this for a living. They write for a living. Crocker does a great job of breaking down tape, breaking down film from DBs to receivers to quarterbacks to whatever it may be. I focus a lot on the defense, the quarterback, the protections. But don't believe anything or don't believe everything that you hear in some of these post game pressers because some of these guys are full of shit. So that's my 2 cents on it.
The guy you're talking about, I'm cool with the guy you talking about, but yeah.
No, I'm not. Hey, I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna come in and roast somebody, like, at least get the facts straight on it,
Right.
because it was a nickel defense. There's 5 DBs on the field. That's a nickel package, correct?
Maybe he doesn't understand,
and that's fine if he doesn't understand. But I'm just saying,
don't
go flaming the coach over it.
Right.
When in a press conference in front of everybody, saying why wouldn't you run in this situation on a 3rd down when the nickel defense is in? When on 2nd and 8 the nickel defense was in, and it wouldn't matter anyways. Hey, it's football, right? You got to be able to play. I don't think Trey walks up to the line of scrimmage and says, "Oh shit, I got to actually run the ball in this play because there's these big ass dudes across from me." You played against those guys your whole life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At that point, Trey's a big dude too. He's 6'3", 6'4", almost 230 probably, right? So it is what it is. So yeah, it is a lot of clickbait, and I'm sure that Shanahan enjoys looking across the room at particular people asking him questions.
All right. What do you think about this question here? It says, if Jimmy comes out and plays like he has, do you think it actually hurts or boosts his contract value next year versus if he had just sat all year?
I think if Jimmy, let's cross our fingers here. If Jimmy can play this whole season very similar to how he has played and stays healthy through it, I think that it helps him realistically, because there's going to be plenty of teams that are going to be in need of a quarterback, or he can be a plug and play type of guy in most offenses where you know what you're getting. That's the toughest thing with rookie quarterbacks, right? You don't necessarily know what the hell you're getting until you watch them play for a year or two. And then you make those decisions based off of that. Where Jimmy, you know what you're getting. You know the guy can win games. Is it going to be in the sexiest way possible? Probably not. But he's got it done enough, right? And people are quick to forget. I'll say this again. Kyle Shanahan, without Jimmy Garoppolo, has a losing record as a head coach for the 49ers.
Well,
Jimmy's won a lot of games. And I get it. I get it. I know there's going to be pushback, but I'm just saying.
Well, why?
Why? Well,
what's the pushback on that?
Well, they're going to say, well, the defense is stacked.
No.
We got a defense.
No.
Or what would your pushback be?
It's fucking Brian Hoyer, CJ Beathard, and Nick Mullins.
That was going to be my next thing I was going to say.
Okay.
The backups that he had were not Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Like, now we're in a situation where Jimmy's the backup. Now he's the starter. It didn't take long. It happened in a game and a quarter, essentially. But again, I'll say it. Thank God he's here. And I think you would agree. Thank God that Jimmy Garoppolo is in the situation right now, because it still does give the Niners an opportunity. Do I think the Niners will win a Super Bowl this year? I mean, I would love to see it happen, but I think that at this rate, it's probably a little bit wishful thinking, just because of the way that some of these other teams are set up offensively. I think their defense is solid. And I was going to ask you this, and I was listening to, I saw today, Bowman is up for the Hall of Fame now, right? And you think about the defense, the way that they're set up, and I do think the defense is still young, and I think I know the answer to this. Jimmy G on a team, would you rather have Jimmy G on the team that he had in 2019 or this year, whatever it may be, with the defense that they have, or Jimmy G back in 2012 with that defense?
I would say Jimmy G on one of these teams.
On one of these teams?
Because I think a big factor in all of this, especially with Jimmy G, is a lot of, run after catch ability. I think he sets guys up for that. And who were the run after catch guys in? Maybe VD, right? Maybe Vernon Davis, but yeah. I mean, I don't know if his skill set matched necessarily extremely well with the pass catchers back then.
No,
maybe Vernon Davis, but
yeah,
I think right now when you look at who he throws to, right, you got George Kittle, you got Deebo Samuel. I mean, they're two of the greatest yard after catch guys since Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens, right? Like, just in the sense of what he has. So I
Right.
think that's
and I think that
being
the
able
biggest
to
thing,
distribute the rock to them
yeah,
in a fashion to where they can pick up those yardage. I think that bodes well for Jimmy. But yeah,
right,
I would rather have him on these teams with that type of ability. He's had the opportunities,
yeah, and
right?
I
Like
think
we
that
talk about the defense stuff like that. Like the Chiefs did have 10 points in the fourth quarter, and it was all right. We just need to. Can we put them away? Can we just keep a drive going? And could not do that. So I think
right,
that would have been the same whether it was, you know what I'm saying? If you just can't do it,
yep,
same
and
NFC Championship game last year. Like you have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Rams. We just need a drive to be put together. He's no matter what team you put Jimmy on, he is this, and this is like factual. This is not an opinion. He is the worst postseason fourth quarter quarterback in NFL history.
I'm not here for the Jimmy slander today, Croc.
No, I'm just saying, like, so
No,
if
I'm just messing
whatever
with you.
team
I'm
you put
messing
him
with
on, you can put him on this team, that team. It's not gonna matter if he can't make a play for you in the fourth quarter.
Right. And I would love, and I think a lot of people agree too, I would love nothing more than to watch him just light it up this year. I think what you saw with Jimmy the other day was very limited. I think the play calls were very limited. Jimmy wasn't practicing up until basically I'm sorry, my son's showing me his Halloween lights over here. He wasn't practicing up until probably 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? He wasn't even with the team. And there's new plays that are implemented. It's not like they run the same playbook every year. Kyle's got some new stuff. He might change the way things are called, whatever it may be. But I think that once he gets comfortable again being out there, he didn't play preseason, he didn't practice a lot with the team. I think once he gets comfortable, I would hope to see maybe a little bit different version. I don't anticipate a whole lot, but if he plays with confidence how he did in 2019 and can just finish the damn job, I would love nothing more for it. Somebody said the market spoke and said no thanks. I think the market spoke and the Niners said no thanks on some of those things because they wanted some more equity for Jimmy than they were willing to give him up for. And I think that I don't know if that's necessarily facts completely, but I think that there were some teams that were calling for sure. But I don't think the Niners were ready to give him up for minimal, trades. And
They
I think
said
that
they
kind
tried
of
to give him away for a ham sandwich. So
there you go. But somebody also said Hufanga or an All-Pro guy. I was a big fan of him coming out of USC. I grew up a USC fan. Thank God Crocky is. Well, I don't know if he is, but Crocky made the switch. He's all fight
I
on
committed
now.
a few years ago. So.
Yeah, he committed a few years ago. But I love the way that dude plays. He flies around. He reminds me of an old school type of safety. He gives me those Palomalu vibes, and I'm not just saying that. There we go. He gives me those Palomalu vibes. You know, he's
Facts.
got that
Facts.
game. He's not a huge, he's not built like just this 6'4", 230-pound safety that's coming downhill and laying wood on people. It's just he's not that dude, but he'll fly around the field and make a ton of plays. I think his upside is so good that he's going to be legit, man. And the problem is if you put him, he had a lot of hype, I think, going in the preseason. The problem with Hufanga, and I'm so glad that we got him when we did because I think it was a steal getting him when we did, is that USC had some shitty years. And they weren't the Alabamas or the Georgias of the world at that time.
Right.
So people didn't view him like that. But if you would have put him on one of those winning teams, he's probably a first or, early second-round draft pick.
He's my favorite 49er player.
No, he here's what I'm most impressed with, with what I've seen from him so far. And again, this is a guy who, I always looked at like, I see some of the things he's able to do. I'm like, man, for him to be able to win consistently at the NFL level, like he's gonna have to be able to play a step ahead. Right. Because he's not the most gifted safety in the NFL, right? Just from an athletic standpoint. And he's been a step ahead. And you watch him, that pass breakup that he had that resulted in an interception on Sunday, they put him, for everybody that says, oh, Hufanga, he can't play, he sucks in coverage, blah, 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 whatever. They put this dude in man coverage on Tyler Lockett in the slot with zero help. zero help. Like it was basically zero coverage for him.
Yeah.
And the only reason why his safety even came was because there was a safety backside, and he kind of was just sitting there, and he had two shallow routes to his side. So then he brought his eyes back to the quarterback, which kind of led him in the direction of where he threw it. But there was no help on that play for Hufanga. And he undercut a route thrown to Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he did it, or but
No, he's
that
play.
was next level in the sense of what you're asking a guy. And there are other players the 49ers have had in the past who I think might have played that a little safer, but he definitely took a risk there. Now, the counter to that is, will teams start trying to double move him? If they line him up, they get the look that they want, and they're like, all right, we're gonna, if you just bend it in and then go vert, he's gonna bite. Like, that's the thing I want to see. But I like his aggressiveness. I think he's done a terrific job with how he's reading just the field in general. And then it's like, man, he's backfield and breaking up passes, he's closing. Then all of a sudden he's tackling for loss. I'm like, man, this dude is everywhere.
Yeah, I think that, the D-line, the way that they're set up right now, I think the Jackson pick, again, where's he from, Croc?
Who?
Trey Jackson. There we go. The USC guys, I think, are coming up again, and I'm excited. The D line is starting to roll right now. Obviously hoping they stay healthy, but they've dealt with, that's the biggest thing with the Niners. Is they've dealt with a lot of injuries. You look at Kittle right now, right? So it's like the D line has dealt with issues. We were on like our third D tackle, fourth D tackle last year, or whatever it may be. These guys are dealing with a lot of injuries. I'd love to see a full, healthy 49ers team go into a season and make it through a season. And I know it's a rarity and it happens because it's football, but I just felt like the Niners have fallen victim to just having more injuries than other teams. And it's like year after year after year it happens. And, hopefully this week they can contain Russ and keep him, in the pocket. I know it's a tough task, but he's obviously played the Niners and he knows that defense, probably like the back of his hand. So they're going to have to get a little tricky with it. But if they're on his ass pretty quick, I think that the Niners will be all right this upcoming week.
Also, I think the 49ers are going to be just fine. I'm looking at some of their numbers right now, and I feel like the 49ers. Okay, Travarius Ward had the pick. Travarius Ward had the interception where the running back threw it. Did you see that? I was thinking, like, what the hell are they doing?
Mm-hmm. It makes you scratch your head on some of these ones.
Yeah, they did some weird stuff.
Donald
Anyways,
wasn't
man,
impressed with it either.
That's going to do it for this episode of It's Not Aired Out. It's really just Crocker and Panelli. We're going to have all this stuff situated, and if we can get on with Quincy and Amazon, might have a nice little bag coming. All right, we got to get there. We got to get our numbers over to Amazon. All right, but appreciate everybody that's tuning into the chat right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on your way out. Shout out to my guy, Greg Panelli. Shout out to Quincy Avery coming on. Of course, I got my brother down here with me right now. But that's going to do it for this episode of the No Name Podcast. I think that's what we're going to call it right now until we figure it out. I saw my guy right here. I think it was Lake City Fresh. Yeah. He said, Croc, what's the pod name? Like, bro, I don't know. Like, you see, we came on here. There was no intro. There was no nothing. It's just like, hey, I'm Croc. That's Panelli. You know, say we had Quincy. But we're going to figure it out.
We might have to just ask the comments one day. Just take the comments and let the fans choose what this podcast might be called here.
You said what?
I don't know.
The No Name Podcast. Donald likes the No Name Podcast. All right, we're gonna sleep on it. We're gonna figure out some names. Appreciate everybody that's in the chat right now. Love all y'all. Y'all have a good night, and I'll see most of y'all tomorrow morning. Y'all already know 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. San Francisco 49ers morning show. All right, but until next time, we're out. Peace.